Hello, everybody, and welcome to 38 Weeks to Go, your weekly podcast about fantasy football. I am your host, Nash, and let's get into it. I just want to start off by saying that this episode will be a bit of a shorter one. I am having a bit of a difficult week in that I lost my mother, and I just wanted to be consistent, so I said, let me just put out an episode just to distract myself. So this episode will not be as long as the other ones have been. And as things calm down a bit, I will resume a normal schedule. Please keep my family in prayers and your thoughts. I hope you are all well and I hope you're all healthy. Okay, let's go. How was the double game week for you? The highest points got 177 points, while the average was 66. So, according to me, that must be the highest in a while. And also, if I got 177 points, I'll be on top of our league table. So, it seems like generally people made good decisions. If an average score is that high, then we're doing well. And 177, very well. So, what contributed to that awesomeness? Firstly, a belief in Haaland and Manchester City. So if you had a combination of Guehi, O'Reilly, Sheki, and Haaland, you did well. And then if you used your bench boost, you did well. If you used your triple captain, particularly Haaland, it's 2 goals, you did well. I forgot that I had a bench boost and I forgot that I had a triple captain. So I got 70, which is higher than the average. But no. The thing that hurts me the most this week is that if you remember in the last episode, I recommended Okafor and then I didn't put him up. Mainly because I was trying to figure out how to lose few points next week. I totally regret it. Having Leeds was going to be a good decision. And then, of course, if you had Senesi in Bournemouth's defense, you are one of the winners. If you are one of those lucky people who had Morgan Gibbs White, you are probably the real MVP. He did a great job. 3, a hat-trick. You don't need more than that, and he doesn't even need a double game week. So, let's see. The marquee game. We have to just start with the marquee game. The marquee game was the marquee game of marquee games this season. Manchester City 2, Arsenal 1. What a game. If you're an Arsenal fan, I just want to say I'm sorry, because I don't know how this happened. If you remember early in the season, I was calling them champions elect, and it seems like I should have said it's not over until it's over. The fat lady has not sung, the opera is not yet over. And now, with Manchester City defeating Arsenal and Burnley, they're at par. So it's Manchester City's to lose. The title race is on when it looked like a foregone conclusion. You know, they say the steady does it, and boy, are Manchester City steady. And I think this all stems from the signings of Guehi and Semenyo in January. Those 2 signings have transformed that team. They're solid at the back, and they're more versatile and dynamic going forward. Arsenal didn't quite do much to shake things up in the January transfer window, and I think their tactics became stale. They don't even seem to be able to attack, and if the corners are not working, it seems like there's no real game plan. And since Pep beat Arteta in the final the other day, they've been very wobbly. They've looked more vulnerable than they have looked the entire season. Sheki opened the scoring after an amazing run. He made Gabriel look so basic. One wouldn't have thought that Gabriel is a top defender in the Premier League this season. And at that point, I thought, oh no, the floodgates are going to open. And then within 2 minutes, Donnarumma dilly-dallied on the ball and he was punished by Kai Havertz. And then it was 1-1. And then that sort of kind of restored parity. But Manchester City piled on. And Haaland eventually got the ball off across from O'Reilly. And it ended 2-1. Both teams had chances to equalize or score more, but they didn't take them. And it ended 2-1. Matheus Nunes and O'Reilly had the assists for the goals, and then Cherki had the 3 bonus points, O'Reilly 2, and Haaland 1. And so that was the first game. Man City win, and we all knew that they would do better. I mean, they would also win against Burnley. It was 1-0. I honestly thought it would be more, which is why I had Haaland as my captain. I was banking on him scoring in that game and maybe hoping for 1 in this game. But anyway, if you had O'Reilly, Nunes, Guehi, you did well. The highest scoring game of the weekend. So Aston Villa take on Sunderland and defeat them 4-3. This game was a seesaw game. It was a great game for the neutral. That's what they mean when they say that. It looked like Sunderland were going to come back and maybe take it, but then it wasn't meant to be. Hume, Rigg and Isidore scored, while Watkins, Rodgers and Abraham scored for Villa. Digne, Maatsen, McGinn and Watkins had the assists for Aston Villa, while Enzo Lefebvre and Sadiki had the assists for Sunderland. Watkins had the 3 bonus points, Rodgers had 2, and Enzo Lefebvre had 2. I was very bitter with my team because I have Enzo Lefebvre and Van Dijk on my bench. When it comes to a disappointing match, there's no real disappointing match. Because if you want to say Chelsea losing to Man United and then losing to Brighton is disappointing, you would not be wrong. I would say the most heartbreaking result. Let me go for heartbreaking this week, because Chelsea losing, they haven't won a game since like March 4. No, they haven't scored since March 4, but they haven't won in their last 5 games. So them losing another one wasn't anything to write home about. Spurs 2, Brighton 2. It looked like Spurs were going to do something in this encounter. Pedro Porro scored, then Mitoma scored, then Xavi Simons scored with a beautiful curling effort. And it looked like it was going to be all Spurs until in the 90th plus minute, with the last kick of the game, Jorginho Rota scores the equalizer, and you could just see Xavi Simons' heart breaking. And that was the most, I guess, heartbreaking game of the day. So Bagval and Xavi Simons had the assists for Spurs, while Van Herke and Gross had the assists for Brighton. Gross had the 3 points, Xavi Simons had 2, and Pedro Porro had 1. When it comes to round points, Leno and Lammens both had 10 points each. Verbruggen 8, along with Dalot and Donnarumma. So it's interesting. If you had Lammens or Leno, that was better than having 2 keepers. I mean, a keeper playing twice. When it comes to defenders now, of course, Leeds defender James Justin had 19 points, so he was the best defender this week. Kadioglu had 16, Kusanov 15, Truffert 13, along with O'Reilly. Van Herke 12, Lacroix and Matheus Nunes, Shaw and Heaven had 11. Canvo, Stroik, Bijol, Pedro Porro had 10. I don't think I've ever read that many defenders over 10 points. It shows you how key defense was this week. When it comes to midfield, the king of the day was Morgan Gibbs-White, who had 20 points, king of the game week. Second was Cross, tied with Okafor for 16 points. Cherki, 13. Jorginho Ruta and Ampadu, 12. Ryan 11, Xavi Simons 11, Hinshelwood and Mo Salah had 10. Mo Salah is looking like a good end to the season type guy. This is literally his last hurrah, it seems. When it comes to forwards, Watkins had 16, Haaland 13, Krupi Jr. 10, Fleming, Beto, Osula had 9. So defense was king, but Morgan Gibbs-White was the best performer this week. Let's look at some stats that came over the weekend. By weekend I just mean the game week. Manchester City end the day on top of the Premier League for just the 7th time this season, and the first time since August 21. Can you believe that? So that's wild. Now, the Citizens have never failed to go on and win the league after having led after 33 games or more. So basically it is advantage City. Liam Rosinia was fired. It was about time. He was a disaster of a manager. He lost 10 of his 23 games in charge of Chelsea. He won 11 and he drew 2. And he was the quickest to 10 defeats by a Blues manager since Glenn Hoddle in 1993. Glenn Hoddle took 20 games. Chelsea haven't won a point or even scored a goal in their last 5 league games. Danny Welbeck scored this game week, and when he scored, he equaled the goal scoring record for Brighton in a Premier League season, 13, which is joint top with Glenn Murray, who also had 13. It is also the most for any English player from Brighton in a single season. It seems like he's going to go to the World Cup. Now, across each team's last 9 games in the Premier League, only Tottenham, who have gained 2 points, have picked up fewer points than Chelsea, 5. In the last 9 games, Chelsea have picked up 5 points. Let that sink in. It took too long to sack him. And it was the first time Chelsea have lost 5 successive league games without scoring since 1912. Just to rub salt into the wound, Chelsea's XG in the first half of the game against Brighton was lower than they had in any of Enzo Maresca's 114 halves of Premier League football as Chelsea boss. Chelsea have conceded 11 goals from corners this season, and it is their joint most in a Premier League season since 94-95. Only West Ham have conceded more goals from corners than Chelsea this season. They have conceded 15. Bruno Fernandes is having an incredibly creative season. He has created more chances than any other player. How many more chances? 48. He's 48 chances above number 2. Before losing their grip on the top of the table, Arsenal were on the top of the league for the 200th consecutive night. And it is also 200 more days than any manager that has led the table without ever lifting the trophy. The most is Kevin Keegan, who did it for 339 consecutive nights. That's painful just to lose it like that. Under Arteta, it is also the 539th night that Arsenal have been number 1. But as you all know, it doesn't mean anything unless you can win it. In other stats, Wolves will spend 282 days of the Premier League this season in the relegation zone, becoming the first side to spend 100% of their days in the drop zone in a top 5 campaign since they themselves did it in 1964-65. That's crazy. They were in the relegation zone from the get-go. Arsenal have played 55 games so far this season. They have suffered 7 defeats so far. In the first 49 matches, they tasted 3 defeats. In the last 6 matches, 4 defeats. That must be so fear-inducing. Erling Haaland is the second player to score in 4 consecutive Premier League games against Mikel Arteta's Arsenal, after the late Diogo Jota did it between 2020 to 2022. With 10 goals and 14 assists, Cherki has become the first player to reach 10 goals and 10 assists in the Premier League for all clubs. Wow, I don't know why, but I thought Bruno would have done that. Morgan Gibbs-White is just the 3rd player to score a Premier League hat-trick for Nottingham Forest. Kevin Campbell did it first in 1996, and then Chris Wood did it twice in 2023 and 2025. Liverpool beat Everton at the death, and they have now scored 6 90th minute winners against Everton in the Premier League, the most one side has scored against a single opponent in the competition's history. Talk about bragging rights for a derby. In his final Merseyside derby, Mo Salah has equaled Steven Gerrard's 9 goals to be the joint top scorer in that Premier League fixture between Everton and Liverpool. Looks like Salah is finishing strong. Ollie Watkins has now scored 10 plus goals in all 6 of his Premier League seasons. Only Sadio Mane, who's done it 8 times, has played in more campaigns in the competition's history while reaching double figures for goals in every one. That's good. Bruno Fernandes is just the 4th player to reach 10 assists in Premier League away games in a season, after Mazi Izzet in 03-04, Cesc Fabregas 14-15, Mo Salah in 24-25. 10 assists away from home. Since his first season in the Premier League in 17-18, only Trent Alexander-Arnold, who has 36, and KDB with 30 have registered more assists via cross than Pascal Gross, who has 27, meaning that he is a deadly deliverer of the ball. Since January, Bournemouth have gone on an unbeaten run of 13 games. You'd think that they'd be sad because Iraola is leaving, but they want to finish strong. Very impressive. Would it surprise you if I told you the most selected player was Haaland? Maybe? What about most captained? Haaland. You guessed it. The most transferred in player this week is Watkins, 913,000. Second, Bowen, 520,000. Morgan Gibbs-White, 507,000. Rodgers, 330,000. Virgil van Dijk, 246,000. Most transferred out. Joao Pedro in street clothes really hurt me. I've just remembered. I don't hype black this out. Joao Pedro and Palmer not playing, and then Palmer just not doing anything, also really hurt a lot of people, especially if they put him as captain. Anyway, Joao Pedro was removed by 960,000. Semenyo, 680,000. Ekitike, 507,000. Senesi, 326,000. Wow, 314,000 have removed Haaland. The highest tally this week belongs to Acuna Mateta. Super name, they got 177 points and they used their bench boost. Goodness, this person was prepared. Donnarumma, 8. Senesi, 6. Truffert, 13. Kadioglu, 16. Van Hecke, 12. Rodgers, 9. Morgan Gibbs-White, 20. Bruno Fernandes, 6. Okafor, 16. Evan Nilsson, 6. Haaland, 26. Verbruggen, 8. Calvert-Lewin, 8. Struijk, 10. Cherki, 13. There were no misses in this squad. Absolute no misses. That is very, very rare. In our group, goodness, we had some performers. Solo Kamau, talk about a poor start to finishing strong. 138 points, using their bench boost. In goal, they had Dalo, who gave them 8. Then O'Reilly gave him 13. Van Hecke gave him 12. Hill gave him 5. Justin gave him 19. Tavernier 9, Semenyo 5, Palmer 2, Scott 5, Haaland captain 26, Welbeck 8, Verbruggen 8, Thiago 2, Bijol 10, Bruno Fernandes 6. Solo, well done. 138 points is not a joke. Second place belongs to Arnold Midunga along with Franklin Asiema, who both got 134 points. Number 4 was Mark Mutegi, who got 128 points. Number 5 is a three-way tie. Jayaram Prajapati, 124. Ken Kimani, the same, and Escobar Season, 124. Hey, people really did well. Well done. I suddenly feel like my 70 was useless. Goodness, I was doubled. More than doubled by the top. That's painful. It's not too often you get 70 points and get red arrows. On the other end of the table, Team Odera has 21 points. Ayudele Oladuni, 23 points. Dennis Motua, 31 points, along with Prabin. And number 5 is Kojo Danso and Mark Yosh, who have 33 points. Now, looking at Team Odera's team, he had Raya in goal, 1 point. Frimpong, 1 point. Rodon, who played twice, 1 point. That's painful. Gabriel, 0 points. Kukurea, 3 points. Palma, 2 points. Bubu, 3 points. Verts, 2 points. Miley, 4 points. Jokeres, 2 points. Isak, 2 points. It's not a bad team. It just didn't do the business. Goodness. I was feeling very bad because I had about 15 points on the bench. But it turns out that I wasn't the worst this week. And that somehow brings me joy. Illicit Frost, managed by Brian Ibrahim, has 29 points on the bench. But 20 of those are from Morgan Gibbs White. So it's not as bad as it sounds, but it's horrible still. Kojo Danso and Victor Nyabola had 27 points on the bench. Bode Blachowicz and Mark Yosh had 25 points on the bench. DJ Notice is the manager with the most goal scorers this week, with their team scoring 7 goals. When it comes to the team with the most midfield, of course, it has to be high with the double game week. Edwin Aor has a midfield that delivered 71 points, which is more than what I got this week. It's painful. Wow. And then Solo Kamau, who is our number 1 this week, his defense got 75 points, which is more than I got this week. Goodness. Well done. That is so impressive. I'm so jealous. I'm not even sure if I've reached 100 points this week at any point. I mean, this season. When it comes to the most transfers made, Mike Mbogwa has made 7 transfers this week. Mike Massimi has made 6. Sir Carlos Venga has made 5. Melvin Asakanya has made 5. Davis Otaro and DJ Notice. David Moy, Hilary Malik, Madman Bielsa, Washira Gitahi, Yusufa Mukoko, Kelvin Mwachilimu, Victor Nyabola have all made 4 transfers this week. You know, sometimes you can make good transfers and then they're good transfers, and I think this might be one of the best this season. Telvin Mudoga gained 71 points from the transfers made this past game week. 71. 7-1. That is more than my whole team. Shit, that's impressive. I wonder how many points they got in total. 97. Well done. It was a good use of the free hit. Although I would have preferred to use a free hit this week. But 97 points, you can live with that. Noblesse got 70. Mistaken 66. George Outa 64. And Vic Nyadi 58. Well done, guys. You made good decisions. When it comes to the other side of the coin, thankfully it wasn't so bad this week. Sir Carlos Venga lost 12 points thanks to the transfers made. Calvin Mochilimu and Kankimani 10, Victor Nyabola -4, Bonaji and Dennis Odera lost, though 3 points worse off by the transfers they made. So that's not too bad. When it comes to the team with the best value, Colin Skogi's team is worth 106.8. Well done to you, sir. On the other end, Angula Nayo Kijana Imama is pretty much the worst with 96.4. When it comes to changes in team value, Papichulo and Kankimani have seen their team's value rise by 0.3. On the other end, Brian Murilla has seen the team value drop by 1.8. And as you know, when you see that, it means they used their wild card. Let's look at the top differentials in our group this week. Number 1, of course, has to be Morgan Gibbs-White. 20 points, chosen only by 6% of us. Then Justin, 19 points, chosen by 2% of us. Cardioglu, chosen by literally only one person, 16%. Okafor, 1%, 16 points. Okafor, chosen by 4%, 16 points. And 5th is Gross, chosen by 5% of us, 16 points. Well done, guys. You guys chose great differentials, and I'm sure you're one of the people who made my 70 points look like nothing. Now, when it comes to the most unique team, Kojo Danso, No Fears FC, because you know Kojo Danso has two teams in our league. Kojo Danso, his team in general is owned by 7% of our group. As in, that's how differential his squad is. So you can see that Kojo is experimenting a lot. With such a great week and such high performances, Escobar's season has jumped 1.1 million positions globally. Prabin GC is on the other end and has dropped 876,000. When it comes to a streak of green arrows, Don bloody Clinton. Never been so proud of somebody. Don Clinton has been the biggest tinkerer for the last 2 seasons of our league. I never thought I would see the day that they have 10 straight green arrows. That is just so impressive. Don, if you're listening, please keep it up. That is so impressive. Because I noticed that you stopped changing your team so much. Well done. I think you're figuring things out. Or maybe if it's 10 weeks in a row, you have figured things out. On the other end, you see Kojo Danso, manager of Kutongos FC. You see, on the other team has got the most differential, and then this one has been struggling. 10th red arrow. So it means that both teams may not be doing so well. In our league, Escobar's season has jumped 33 positions. Of course, when you get over 100 points, you're going to jump. On the other end, Walal Somali and Matthew Jr. have both dropped 23 places. When it comes to captain choices, Haaland was the most captain player by managers this week, with 91 of us captaining him. In second place, it was Bruno Fernandes, captained by 19. These guys must have forgotten. Semenyo was captained by 19. These guys were trying to be clever. Joao Pedro captained by 11. People were trying to take risks. Thiago captained by 10. I don't even know what they were thinking. Palmer captained by 5. Chelsea fans. Calvert-Lewin captained by 4. People looking for differentials. Gyökeres captained by 4. They must have forgotten. Sheki captained by 4. Trying to be smart. Well done. Ekitike captained by 3. Dead teams. Salah captained by 3. Dead teams. Saka captained by 3. Dead teams. Wood. Dead teams. Welbeck 2. Not bad. Evanilson 2. Not bad. Cross 1. The risk taker of risk takers. Well done. Voltemada, Hudson-Odoi, Grealish, Foden. O'Reilly, well done. Gakpo, Raul, Wilson, Bumo, Krupi Jr., Watkins, Rodgers, and Gabriel, each captained by one. Nobody captained Morgan Gibbs-White. Now, I realize I'm recording this podcast a day late, which is on Friday, the day of the game. But it's just been a crazy week. So, the kickoff is today, which is Friday, and Sunderland take on Nottingham Forest. Now, when you look at the previous 5 matches, Nottingham Forest have won 3 and drawn 2 of their last 5. Sunderland lost a thriller to Aston Villa 4-3, but they've lost 3 and won 2. So that definitely means Nottingham Forest have better form. In the earlier game in the season, Sunderland beat them 1-0. Honestly, I have Mukiele, so that's what I'm hoping for. But I also have Morgan Gibbs-White, so I want him to have a hat-trick. Now, by the time you listen to this podcast, even by the time it's released, it'll be too late because I'm recording this in the evening of Friday. I didn't realize the game was today. It's been a hectic week. So I'm not even going to give recommendations. I'm just going to tell you what I think because it's too late to receive recommendations. But I'm hoping for a Nottingham win. Fulham take on Aston Villa. I'm hoping for Watkins to do the job because he's my captain this week. Although with Fulham, I know you can never count out a Wilson or Raul Jimenez. Liverpool take on Crystal Palace. Now, Mateta has been great of late, so he will be dangerous and could possibly be one of the danger men. I'm sure a lot of people have been looking at Liverpool as the strongest team playing this game week, and therefore I think a lot of people will stack up on Van Dijk, maybe Salah if they afford him, and a combination of maybe Szoboszlai or Verts even. Or maybe Isak, I don't know. When it comes to West Ham, Beto is injured, so I know he won't play. So maybe this is an opportunity for Barry. Or maybe now this is the beginning of Everton's sort of halt of their progress because Beto has been great. West Ham, I think Bowen will be dangerous. But I think Moyes will win the Moyes Derby in that Everton will beat West Ham. I believe also Liverpool will beat Crystal Palace. Wolves take on Spurs, and I think Spurs will actually get one because Wolves have been atrocious since the international break. Arsenal versus Newcastle is the marquee game of the game week, and therefore everyone will be hate watching this one. It will be a close one. Newcastle for a while have had their number, but Newcastle of late have been poor. But having said that, Arsenal have been poor as well. Because when you look at their head-to-head, Arsenal have won their most recent 3 matches, 2-1, 3-2, 1-0. And then Newcastle have won the 2 games before, 2-0, 2-0. So it seems like there might be goals in this one. So clean sheets might not be what you need. Or rather, you should not be counting on them. Both teams have worrisome recent records. Newcastle have lost 4 of their last 5 games. And the last time they won a game was 5 games ago. As you know, Arsenal were recently beaten by City. But in their last 5, they've lost 3, won 1, drawn 1. So both teams are in horrible form. And even if Arsenal are bad, Newcastle have been worse. So that makes Arsenal slight favourites, but not by much. All of those games are on Saturday. There'll be no game on Sunday because that's when the FA Cup will be played and Chelsea will take on Leeds. Chelsea fired their manager, and so they'll be looking to do something. Now, on the other end, the last game of the game week will see Manchester United take on Brentford. And this game will be interesting because the last time they played, Brentford won 3-1 with Thiago scoring 2 goals. It's too late to captain him. Anyway, Brentford have won their most recent 2 games. Man United have won 2 games and they've drawn 1. And both sides have scored in all of these encounters. So it looks like it'll be a very lively one. Saving the best for last type thing. When I think of captains, I think Morgan Gibbs-White might be popular this game week. From Sunderland, I can see Brobby, Enzo Lefeo, Mukiele. I'm just hoping because I have those 2 in my team. Fulham versus Aston Villa, I could see Rodgers or Watkins being captain, and maybe even McGinn. Fulham, I could see Wilson or Jimenez being captained. Liverpool, I can see a lot of people believing in Salah, especially if you removed Haaland. That's a straight swap. Crystal Palace, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody chose Mateta. West Ham, Bowen, Everton. Oh, I don't think anybody would take an Everton captain, but if you would, it would probably be Dewsbury Hall, but that doesn't make any sense. Wolves, nobody would take a captain there, but if you're doing Tottenham, I could see Xavi Simons being popular, even Pedro Porro. Arsenal, they're having trouble scoring, so I can see maybe Kai Havertz, given his industry, and maybe Rice or Gabriel being captained. If Gordon is back, I can see him or Bruno Guimaraes. Manchester United, of course, it's Bruno. Bruno might even be the most popular captain this week. But it could also be Thiago from the opponent side. And then I can see people having Casemiro and benefiting from that choice as well. And with that, we've come to the end of the game week. I'm not sure how I will move going forward. But as things get better for me mentally, I will be better. Outside that, I just want to say thank you for listening and see you on the page. Bye.